All right, we are back with another episode of Redirected, and today's episode I'm really excited about. We sit down with Todd Anderson, who I didn't know before about 6 weeks ago, but in the 6 weeks that we have known each other, we've probably hung out 18 times. We see each other all the time. I love hanging out with him. There's always a good laugh. I'm always learning something. He's a guy who loves to read research papers about anything and everything, health, wellness, recovery. He's just a geek about this stuff, as you'll come to find out. We talk about a lot of different things in this interview. Talk about the sauna, the ice bath, and the phenomena surrounding that. We talk about caffeine. We talk about sleep. We learn a lot, but a little bit about Todd's background. So he was a walk-on football player at Michigan State, earned a scholarship, went on to get a shot at the NFL, and now he creates these amazing videos on Instagram where I'm always learning from him, and I'll link that down below if you're interested in checking it out. I would highly recommend it. But we also talk about a couple companies that he has found helpful, including one that he recently started called Dream Recovery, and I'll link that as well. But Todd's wife is Katie Hoff, who was a two-time Olympic swimmer. And so I feel like Todd and I can really see eye to eye and empathize with each other in that sense as well, with having wives who are pretty dang good athletes and supporting them in all their endeavors. So he's a wonderful guy. I'm sure you'll get a laugh and learn something yourself, and be sure to check out the links below. But thanks, Todd, for joining us, and thank you for listening, and let's go ahead and roll into it. Thanks for coming by, Todd. I feel
Excited to be here. Excited to come over for the first time.
I know. Welcome. This is where it all goes down here. The last couple months have been a real roller coaster for us.
Yeah, a lot of heat, a lot of cold.
We didn't know each other like 6 weeks ago.
We got to know each other real quick.
Gosh.
A little sauna adversity will do it.
I try to explain to people, they're like, what do you do in your free time? And I was like, well, I play ping pong, and then I've been doing sauna sessions with the boys recently.
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain.
It's pretty electric, but it's kind of one of those things where like you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but once they know, people are hooked. You know, you can't get away from it.
Have you always been into this world of biohacking?
I have. I mean, yeah, as long as I can remember. I mean, I really stem from like my passion stemmed from being a walk-on, like at school at Michigan State. I felt like I had to like squeeze every ounce of performance, even just to be on the team. I feel like I was like the worst guy on the team, right? So it was like, all right, I'm here. How do I play catch up because I'm not where I need to be? And that kind of led to this obsession and passion with human performance, and then that rolled into like recovery and just how do you feel the best you possibly can at all times.
Yeah. So you alluded to it. You played football at Michigan State.
Yeah.
And then you came in a walk-on.
Yeah.
Tell us how the career ended, though, with football.
Yeah, I mean, so I came in a walk-on, and I, it was a dream. I wanted to go to Michigan State my whole life, and it wasn't even on the radar. So I walked on, ended up starting, and, got a shot in the league, and, it was like a fairy tale. And looking back, like it's crazy the way it panned out from my mindset of like senior year of high school to where it ended up. Because like I said, it was just a massive upward trajectory and exceeded my expectations.
Did they end up giving you a scholarship?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, I was sick. It was like the best day. I remember I like cried, but Coach D's pretty low key. He's like, just called me up to the office, like had me sign the papers. Like, all right. There was no like fun,
really?
show. We had a game to play the next day, so it was like strictly business.
What year did you earn it?
It was my junior year, third year. Yeah.
Dang.
But I went through, I was going to play like even my second year. Like, so I redshirted second year. I was set up to play, tore my quad next year, knee surgery. So I'm going into my third year, and, I hadn't been healthy, which is so frustrating because, everyone from my hometown's like doubting me. You're thinking he's on the team. That's nice. But I'm like, no, I swear I'm like good enough to play. I can do this. But, I finally got my chance and made the most of it.
Bro, I'm glad you brought up the quad because I almost forgot about it.
Yeah.
Wait, so what is that one called? It's the one in the middle.
The rectus femoris, yeah.
And
so it's the only one that crosses the knee and the hip of all four quads. So when I tore it, which really messed me up was like I ran our gasser test with the tear.
What are you doing?
Well, you're a walk-on. Like I was literally set up to get a scholarship, and you'll do anything. So because it's the only quad that crosses the knee and the hip, if you bend over a touch, it alleviates some of that tension, right? and I ran like 106-yard sprints. Next day, woke up like my leg was just black and blue.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's crazy. You're dealing with another injury right now.
A little surprise knee surgery on Tuesday.
You said that in the text, and I was like, no way.
Yeah.
Because you're 5 days out from potentially a marathon, hopefully.
We'll see. Yeah, shout out to Dr. Sam in New York. So I have a good friend that's like a stud sports surgeon in New York City, and I got there on Sunday, and my knee had been bothering me for like 2 weeks in training. And I texted him joking, like, I wish you could scope my knee because I hadn't been able to train the way I wanted to. And he texted me back, got me booked for an MRI literally Monday, surgery Tuesday morning. Yeah, there was like a chunk of cartilage and bone just like floating around in there. It looked like a tooth.
It was as big as a tooth.
It was like 1.2 centimeters.
Jeez.
So hopefully be feeling a lot better. But it was crazy because I went to New York, was supposed to be there Sunday to Wednesday, no knee surgery planned. Got there Sunday and left with knee surgery.
And you're walking.
Yeah, I'm good, man. Running's tough, but it'll get there.
For a big boy, you weigh 240?
Yeah, 240, 235, probably 240 after not running for a week.
Dang, dude. Because you're set up to run a sub-4 marathon.
Yeah, that's what's frustrating is like, I went from, so I never ran, right? I hated it, despised it. I did all sprint stuff. So like in November, I went to spoke at a fitness retreat of Brian Mazza's fitness retreat. And we had like a 6-mile run with Des Linden. And I had to stop and walk 3 miles in. We were running like 6 miles an hour, it wasn't even fast. So I went from that to being, I was pacing well. I was running, 145 half marathons and then feeling good about breaking 4 hours. And then now I'm here. So if I can, I'll give it a go. But if not, either I'll run Louisville, which is in like a month, or I'll do New York City. I'll definitely do New York City. So I'll have another chance.
So from a fitness perspective, I want to talk about the recovery side of things, but from a fitness perspective, are you like just doing whatever you can to challenge yourself? Like, let me sign up for a marathon or whatever else, or what's your approach at this point? Because you're how old now?
I'm 34.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, kind of like you, I feel like I want to be like well-rounded and be able to do anything. And I had a moment, it was almost exactly a year ago. So I went on like a boys trip, which you would have loved now looking back. But it was like Jesse Itzler, Jimmy from Super Coffee, Devin, Tim Snee, Chad Wright, a bunch of guys who went to Rome, Georgia, at Jesse's place. And my idea was we're going to do sauna, cold plunge, hang out. We'll have awesome food, all this stuff. Chef Leslie was going to be there. And we're sitting around the campfire the first night, and like Chad Wright's like, who was like a Navy SEAL, absolute savage, was like, you guys want to do a triathlon in the morning, like just for fun? In the meantime, I'm like 260, right? Yeah. And I'm like not running. Like I'm doing power cleans, I'm doing some deadlifts. Like 8 reps is like my cardio, And I'm like, and you can't say no in that situation.
Right.
And I'll never forget, and this was like, this like stings in my mind. We did the triathlon, and Chad finished by the time I got to the run. It was like a sprint triathlon. So I had a 3-mile run up this basically mountain. And he came back, ran with me, and then everyone finished and then came and helped me finish.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, as much as I love all these guys, because they're like the best, most like, the best team player,
just go shove it,
would do anything for you. But like, I was so mad.
Yeah,
like, It doesn't, that's the worst feeling, when you're the guy that's like getting cheered on at the end. So I kind of made a vow to myself, like, I will never be that guy again. And I think my goal is just to be as well-rounded as possible. But I think similarly to like what you do is like, I'm definitely a deadline guy, so I need different challenges and goals and things to motivate me in order to like push it to that level, because it's hard just to be fit. I'm not that aesthetically driven.
Right.
I'm more driven by how I feel, I would say.
Yeah. We had the opportunity to do Datter Days together, which I'll never forget.
Yeah. Well,
so,
we did some of it. We had to scale.
So I do this Saturday morning workout with a Navy SEAL, an Army Ranger, a couple like elite CrossFit guys.
Elite.
I tell Todd it starts at 6 a.m. on Saturday, and he got there at 5:45.
Okay,
but
I was set up for failure. Go ahead.
I screwed you. But I texted you at like 5:59. I was like, don't be freaking late, dude. Get in the building. And
I was literally driving around because you were like, get there at 6. I'm like, perfect. Usually, especially CrossFit workouts, there'll be a standardized warm up.
Right.
And I wasn't sure the setup.
Yeah.
So I'm driving around, stopped at the gas station, get some caffeine, killing time.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, everyone's waiting.
Oh. So he rolled in on time, but got no warm up, and it was not an easy workout.
I mean, that first set was like 15 bar facing burpees right out of the gate. Mom, remember?
We'll do it this Saturday too.
Humbling. Yeah.
I struggle though, because I'm going back and forth on like, I want to be the guy who like, there's a marathon here in Nashville this Saturday. I want to be the guy that's like, yeah, I got a buddy coming to do it. He needs a partner. I'm here.
I'm in.
I haven't been training, but I'm going to do it. And then also balancing that with, I also want to be healthy and fit when I'm 70. So like those two don't necessarily go hand in hand. But do you think about that trade-off much, where it's like push myself hard now to maximize my potential versus extending my potential to the longest amount of years?
It is hard. And it's a direct balance too with the whole like strength versus cardio thing. Peter Attia has been doing a ton of work with it, but like your VO2 max is an excellent predictor of longevity. So there's that aspect of like your cardiovascular function and how much oxygen your body can utilize plays like a key role, and you have to push yourself in that in order to live a long time. But on the flip side, you want enough muscle in order to, move well, be healthy, be strong, not get injured, not fall, all the things that go along with like living a high quality of life. Right. But when you talk about building muscle, there's a lot of cell replication, a lot of things that can cause issues long-term, like cancer and things like that, when you're building a ton of cells or replicating a ton of cells. So it's like this push and pull of like, how do you live the highest quality of life, but also have a ton of like high cardiovascular function? I think it's constantly this tug of war.
So there's a correlation between muscle like density or muscle and cancer?
Well, I wouldn't say necessarily, not with actual cancer, like a clinical cancer, but just, whenever you're replicating cells over and over again, the chances that there's some type of damage or an issue, which is essentially what happens in cancer, goes up. So some of the pathways, if you're only constantly, activating that mTOR pathway, which is kind of what signals cell growth, the chances go up quite a bit. But on the flip side, like you have your AMPK pathway, which they can't work in unison, right? So you have one that shuts it off, one that turns it on, like this cell replication pathway back and forth.
I actually have no idea what you're talking about.
Basically, you need both, right? And you can't have one without the other. And everyone likes to try to pick and choose like strength versus cardio. But at the end of the day, you need to be strong enough to do everything you want to do to live a high quality of life, but have as much cardiovascular function as possible and utilize oxygen. Like exactly what you're saying. Like be able to pick it up and do whatever run or distance stuff, but then be able to go to Saturdays and be strong is the goal.
Yeah, it's tough. I've enjoyed getting old though. And it requires a lot of strategy though, is what I've learned.
Yeah, I guess I haven't, because I mentally I'm just feel like I'm 24,
right?
And I'm not willing to accept it yet. But you have kids though. You're in a different boat.
No, don't worry. I'd still physically dominant.
After looking each other in the eye halfway through Saturdays, there's no physical domination going on by either one of us. I don't even.
Yeah, we both were in a dark place.
Dark place.
Oh man.
We're like, what's the scaled version? That was humbling, because we're both pretty fit guys, but
doing pull-ups with bands.
There's a lot of scales going on there. Also, CrossFit stuff, when you don't do it, it's like, there's a skill associated. It's not like just a pure like conditioning or strength. It's like, all right, you need to learn the movements or get used to the movements, which I haven't been doing in a while.
Yeah. I do feel like I'm spoiled, and you fit this, where with that group, with our sauna boys, I feel like in a lot of areas of my life, I've been able to find people who challenge me and who are better than me at a lot of things. And I'm grateful for that, because one, it pushes me to be better, but it also, humbles me, and I feel like prevents me from being douchier than I already am. So it's a real
Yeah. No, I think that's like one of the most important aspects of life. Like I think about walking on, and that's essentially like what you try to do in life is like launch yourself into a group of people that you have to like really push to keep up with. in whatever aspect. You can have different groups for different areas of your life, whether it be spiritual or physical stuff, even the sauna, cold plunge, just people who are more experienced and better. And then eventually you'll adapt to the situation, just like walking on or any sport. You'll adapt to your surroundings, and then eventually you're one of them.
Right.
That's the idea. Data Day is just going to be a minute.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to keep showing up, and eventually we're going to get there. We're still a walk on at that point.
Have you always been a chip on your shoulder kind of guy?
I think so. Yeah. I think I've kind of, I think that, coming from a small town, and there was a lot of doubt, even throughout my childhood, I was like overweight, and I wasn't the best at anything as a kid. And so I think with that, like it kind of led me to the weight room, and that's where I draw a ton of strength is I started looking better. Yeah, I dreaded pool parties when I was a kid, like absolutely dreaded it, because I was like the fat kid of the group, and my friends were in really good shape. And so I would literally like not look forward to summer because of that, which is sad to think back, but I think like that drove me to the weight room, and I gained a ton of confidence as a person, like psychologically, and just my self-image and perception changed, and kind of dedicated my life to that. So I still draw strength from that, and I think you can kind of harness that insecurity for positive and apply it to things in a positive way, because everybody has something, but it just depends on how you utilize it and which direction that pushes you.
That's what I was going to ask, separating chip on your shoulder versus like an insecurity.
I don't know if there's a difference, to be honest with you.
It feels like insecurity hinders you from getting involved, whereas chip on the shoulder, you use it as motivation to get,
I think it's similar to like, what's the difference between motivating and manipulating? I think it's just how it's utilized, right? Like a chip on your shoulder is like the positive use of an insecurity. And I think an insecurity is something that pulls you down, and that outlet becomes something negative, or at least that's how I interpret it. But never thought about it till right now.
Oh man. Yeah, the weight room for me, by the way, I feel like there's so many people on Instagram or social media that like, it's like physical fitness is paramount, which I think it's important, right? And it's like, it's really good. But for people who aren't into it, I think really the underlying theme is you have to find something that like does get you fired up, does give you confidence. When I was at Vandy, I walked in as a long snapper, way late. I got there, didn't know anybody there, didn't feel like I was qualified because everyone else had a bunch of offers, and I had one from Vandy.
One more than me.
Yeah. But it was like the weight room that really established my place on the team, where I would just show up and like, not that I'm the strongest dude, but I would be just ridiculous in there and hooting and hollering, and like I was like the hype man, right?
Yeah. Still are.
But it was like fun.
I'm pretty sure all my neighbors, because you are the hype man, like they think that we have like some cult in the backyard, because there's like so many like "let's go" chants at like 9:30 at night.
Okay, so let's talk about the Sauna boys.
Yeah.
Because
it's a squad.
Todd and I met. Didn't know Todd from Adam.
Yeah.
Never knew this guy. Just showed up because we had a mutual friend in
Which
town.
is wild looking back at how we didn't cross paths, but yeah, never.
I know.
Yeah.
And you had just come to Nashville not too long ago.
Yeah.
And then within that first week of meeting each other, I think I was in your backyard, in your sauna, mostly naked.
Yeah.
I was there like 4 days that week.
Yeah, I think we counted them when we came over. It was like 6 out of the 8 first day, 75%.
I've been so pleasantly surprised by the sauna because I've maybe done it 5 times before your backyard. But tell us what you love about the sauna. I'm curious.
Man, I mean, there's so many positive things. I mean, as far as longevity goes, it's an absolute beast. It's like, when I think about aging, the thing that worries me the most is like neurodegenerative diseases. When you start not being able to remember things, and your quality of life drops significantly. Because I think that's what we're trying to do, is not just have a long life, but be healthy, like your health span to be as long as possible. So, I mean, going in the sauna 4 to 7 times a week, like over 180 degrees, 176 degrees was the study, but like Alzheimer's dementia is reduced 26% instantly, just 4 to 7 times a week. And the more you do it, the better it gets, which is awesome. Wow. And there's a ton of longevity studies. But I mean, my favorite thing is just, and especially like the barrel sauna, the Sisu barrel sauna, is like the setup is like you're staring at someone face to face, right? It's hard. Like when it's hot, You're altering your mindset with all these like neurotransmitters. It gets you in a good mood, and there's no phones, too hot for phones. So like you have to talk, get to know people. Like that's such a rarity in this day and age. It's such a rarity. When you think about it, it rarely ever happens.
I know that it's quality time, but it's also, I think there's so much bonding that can be had through adversity, and you felt it in college football. It's like you're doing the 2-a-days, or you're doing the conditioning test, and it's like everyone's out there suffering.
Yeah,
which is parallel to the sauna environment where like you're dying sweat, and like there's a bonding that comes from that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I miss about like playing football and just being on a team is like you can be with someone, spend the most time, get along super well, but until you do go through some adversity, like those bonds are stronger than any other bonds that you can form.
Right.
And so I think, as you get older, you're not necessarily going to have the same environment as a team, but if you can create that environment, like, I've only been here for a short time, but I feel like I already have great friends here because I think some of the stuff we do, I think it makes a big difference.
It's so fun. And yeah, it's not like, hey, we're having guys over to watch TV or to play video games. It's like, no, we're actually, even though we're in your backyard just for maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, it's like really well planned and like efficient 2 hours of getting to know each other.
Yeah.
So, but you always do a system where it's like sauna, ice bath. Mm-hmm. What's the appropriate ratio with alternating or cycling in that way?
It depends. I think that, if just straight up performance wise, I usually will separate. I'll do cold only in the morning and I'll do sauna only at night. But when people come over, we do social stuff, like some of the contrast training has benefits too. And I think with the contrast training, the biggest, or the protocol, the biggest thing that people mess up is they don't do one or the other too long. A lot of people say, when I do cold plunge, I like to do sauna. And I'm like, well, you probably like that because it makes it easier, right? But a lot of the cold plunge benefits come from like that shock reaction of your body. Mm-hmm. So I think if people are going to do contrast, it's important to really make sure you're heating up to the full extent and then cooling yourself all the way down. Some people just kind of float in this middle range where they don't get fully acclimated to either environment, and then it doesn't do as much. So, we normally do like, for the most part, we do 15 on in the sauna and then 3 in the cold, and that'll do it for the most part. But, you can play around with the protocols when you're doing contrast training a little bit more because your whatever you were in before can affect how much you're conditioned to stay in, whatever. So you do cold plunge first, you can stay in the sauna significantly longer, but I think it's important to push yourself. Another thing they're finding out is that's one of the ways you can actually like train yourself in the cold, and we haven't done this yet. But instead of a time, you push past break points. So you stay in, right, and you have somebody kind of coaching you through it, and you get to the point where like I can't do anymore, like I got to get out, and you mentally have to calm yourself down and push through like that break point, and then let's say we're gonna go like 3 times through that, and that's some serious adversity. Like that's not fun. But it's an interesting way to kind of train your mind to be calm under stress.
The sauna is easier for me to get through than like the shock of the cold. Like the heat is definitely uncomfortable, and like you're drenched, and at some point you have to work on your breathing. But the cold, everything about it is just pretty uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, I think the cold is like whenever I'll have a lot of people message me and be like, I could never do that. I can't do the cold, and I'm like, no, it sucks for everyone. Like that's the whole point. Like you're not different than everyone else. So when I work with people, I talk to people and they're trying to kind of make a lifestyle overhaul. That's why we always start with like sleep, number 1, and the sauna, because they're enjoyable, and they make such a big impact, and they make everything else easier. The sauna, there's been studies to show that elevating your core temperature like just one time has reduced depression-like symptoms for up to like 6 weeks. Like crazy, awesome studies on mental health stuff. So, I think people sometimes when they're trying to like lose weight or get healthy, they try to like work out and eat well right out of the gate, which are the 2 hardest things. And maybe you start with, working on your sleep schedule and a sauna protocol. You start optimizing your brain and how you feel, and all of a sudden like those eating decisions get easier. Your motivation to work out gets easier, and everything starts to flow, and you get momentum.
My high school weight coach, used to tell us to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and I've loved that approach to life, where it's like, just like we were talking about being with people who push you. It's like
Yeah.
always walking this fine line of not so much that you get discouraged, but being uncomfortable enough that you're improving or learning in some sense, and that it's just an exciting way to live life. But
It is, and you can apply it to like anything, not
Yeah.
just like fitness stuff.
right,
It could literally be hot. It could be business stuff. Like,
Right.
and that's the way to go. But it's also, I think that is a great thing to do. But also, it's easy to jump into the comparing game. You know, when you're pushing yourself and you're around people, I think people can slip into that, you know, comparison pretty easy, and that can be hard to deal with as well.
yeah. I have less pride in that sense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
like, I was thinking about this. There's a lot of people like Walker who we know.
Mm-hmm.
He does few things very well. I do many things not very well. But it's like it's not better or worse. It's just like, hey, he's
Different.
gonna yeah.
I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit either.
Well,
I think you're,
I'm not
I think you're
looking for-
downplaying a little bit, but
Oh man, well I appreciate that. But
Yeah.
okay, I'm excited.
But yeah, bar facing burpees on Saturday morning. I'll give you that one.
Oh man. I'm excited to talk about sleep. I want to unpack that, but before we get there, I mean, ice baths on social media have just
Craze.
taken over.
Yeah.
What is it for you? Like, what are the benefits? Just share with us.
Yeah, I mean, so I think a lot's changed. I think with ice baths, we used to think of it as like, you know, sit in the ice bath, help you recover, and you're going to sit in there for 10 minutes after practice. And I think, you know, over the years, we haven't had the technology to really measure or the studies to figure out exactly what's going on in the body. But now we have a better idea. And it seems like the ice bath is a lot better for stress management and just energy in general, you know? So you jump in an ice bath, like some of those neuromodulators that like coffee boosts, like dopamine goes up 250%, norepinephrine over 500%. The things that give us energy go through the roof, like naturally, just by cold water. So I think utilizing it in different ways and understanding what it's doing to the body has been a huge shift. But I do think the, I guess, popularity has increased so much because it is a cool thing. It's a cool factor. Like it's ice and it's hard and it's like a vibe and people like to do videos and stuff. Where like the sauna, if you notice, hasn't had quite the popularity, but you can argue that the sauna is even better for you for a lot of reasons. And I think it's more enjoyable, but it doesn't have that cool factor.
Can I ask? I used to do steam a lot. What's the difference between steam and sauna?
Yeah. So steam, what's hard with the steam is, like, I think the legal limit is 105 degrees for a steam room. And they've done some studies and they're figuring out, like, one of the main things that helps in the sauna is heat shock proteins. And that's one of the main drivers of the longevity and why a sauna is so healthy is these proteins don't allow some of the plaques that cause neurodegenerative diseases to clump up in your brain and cause, you know, communication issues. So they found that it has to be about 160 degrees to really start producing those. So with the steam, because it's so humid, right, even though it feels really hot, it takes a lot longer to like raise your core body temperature. So it's more of like a perceived heat rather than like a physiological, like raising your core body temperature. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It can be good for your sinuses. There's some uses, but it's not going to have those same, you know, longevity effects that the sauna would.
Because it can't get as hot.
Exactly.
Interesting.
The humidity's through the roof.
Should I feel guilty drinking this in front of you?
I mean, it's pretty late for that, yeah.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just take one more.
There you go. What flavor? That is a pretty good flavor. I work at C4, so, you know.
Do you drink a lot of caffeine?
I do in the morning. I'll do like 200 milligrams in the morning, but.
A C4, pretty much.
Yeah.
One C4, yeah.
Yeah. But I won't do it after like 11 a.m. because.
I don't have trouble sleeping.
No?
No.
It's hard to tell too, though, because even if you're having a ton of caffeine, you could feel like you're sleeping well. It's all perception, right? Like you don't really know what you don't know. And the other thing is, a lot of times, you could feel like you're sleeping well, but like your sleep architecture and your sleep cycles could be off, and you wouldn't really realize it until, you know, down the road, or it'd be hard to really.
You're saying I'm going to die early because of my
like
tooth.
you probably have like a good 2 or 3 years left, and we'll call it a day.
Well, shoot.
But I think it's just people with caffeine. I think they just don't understand how long it stays in your system. You know, it stays in your system. The half life is 5 to 6 hours. You know, so half. You know, if that has 200 milligrams in it, right? So if you had that, what time is it? Well, we can do the math right now. It's 3 o'clock, right? So we'll say 9 o'clock. You'll still have 150 milligrams in your system, and then by 2 a.m., you'll have about a Red Bull's worth of caffeine in your system, 75 milligrams.
Todd, I don't have time to live life, going 10 miles an hour. I got to go full tilt. That's why I'm just freaking crushing caffeine.
Right. But are you ever going full tilt if you have 75 milligrams of caffeine in your system in the middle of the night?
Oh, man. Oh, can I ask you, I want to talk about, Arnold Schwarzenegger used to mix alcohol with protein.
Yeah.
This is a rumor that alcohol opens.
I don't think it's a rumor.
Is it really?
Oh, you're saying that you're going to say, does it help?
The thought behind alcohol with protein is that alcohol opens up your blood vessels, right? That's why you feel warm, and so it distributes the nutrients better.
It does. It is a vasodilator. It does open up your blood vessels, but it shuts down muscle protein synthesis like almost instantly.
Okay.
So you kind of like, it's 50% true. You probably look super vascular, and you'll think you'll look great afterwards. But as soon as you ingest alcohol, like your entire metabolism shifts to wanting to get rid of that alcohol. We used to do tests on people that we do like resting tests, and you can tell like what percent of fats, proteins, and carbs they're burning at rest, and you can see how like stressed their body is or how relaxed, what nervous system state they're in. And one time I had someone have a drink, and instantly their entire substrate fuel usage switched to alcohol, which is like not on that scale.
Wow.
Yeah, almost within 5 minutes.
So what about Red Bull vodkas?
You're going to be hurting. I mean, it's the other thing that people don't ever think about, the interaction between like substances, especially like even over-the-counter stuff, is interesting. Like when you mix caffeine with alcohol, the half-life of the caffeine increases to like 10, 12 hours all of a sudden. So, an espresso martini, you're going to have some lingering effects. Now, on the flip side, if you're drinking Red Bull vodkas, that's probably the effect that you're going for. I don't think sleep is probably the number one priority, but I think it's just important for people to realize what they're doing. I think some people do things without really thinking it through, and you're already, putting something relatively harmful in your body with alcohol. You might as well not compound it. Like that's what happens. You start stacking these negative, actions together. Then you really run into issues. And I think most of like alcohol's negative effects, at least from an energy perspective, have nothing to do with the actual alcohol, but mostly to do with the sleep. It hammers your sleep. No pun intended. It is not good. So,
well, tell us about sleep, because I know you're really disciplined with that.
Yeah,
you have a whole setup with.
That's a nice way to put it. Like Katie just gets mad and says I'm psychotic about going to bed early, but I like that you're really disciplined with that. That's eloquent.
What is your strategy when it comes to sleep?
Is it like my routine?
Yeah.
I'm very disciplined with the time I go to bed, but there are some things that I do that, I don't recommend. And there's some things that I would often like steer people away from, but it's a non-negotiable for me. Like, for example, when I get into bed, we have a TV in our room, and me and Katie watch like one episode of a show that we like. Like we were just recently watching White Lotus, which is awesome. But like that time outweighs the physiological benefits. Like I'm willing to sacrifice it for like that 30 minutes is special to me.
Yeah.
And I feel like we have some great conversations, and I look back on that, and it's always like a nice way to reflect and talk about the day, whatever, good or bad. It's just a good time to be together. But beyond that, I mean, sleep mask, and then I've been doing the mouth tape. So talking about the special 30 minutes, mouth tape comes on, the special 30 minutes is over because there's no more talking. So if it's a bad 30 minutes, you can always just end it early and put the mouth tape on. But I've been doing that recently, and that's been pretty revolutionary as far as like my sleep quality. I realized that was a pretty big, I've experimented with it over the last 5 years, but when I started doing it consistently, I was just a big mouth breather, and I feel a significant difference, and the data backs it up when I tape my mouth.
So I feel like mouth tape is not widely known.
No, yeah. So, I mean, the idea is, and there's a ton of literature in general about just, there's so many amazing benefits about breathing through your nose, especially at rest states. And a lot of times, we have to train our body to breathe through our nose at night, or just our structure of our nasal cavities, whatever it may be, habit, different things. Alcohol can make you breathe out of your nose more often. But training yourself and actually not allowing yourself to breathe out of your mouth can, have a lot of positive health benefits as far as the cardiovascular system, your sleep quality. It reduces snoring up to like 25%. It can help with some sleep apnea symptoms. So I think it's almost like securing your breathing correctly throughout the night. But I went on this, this whole journey about what tape to use, all these different things, and there was just not a great option. So we were like, well, let's just do it ourselves. Let's make our own.
And here we have the origins of Dream Recovery.
Yeah, I mean the first product is the sleep mask.
Okay.
Because that was the other thing that would happen is, I speak to we work with a lot of athletes, especially in swim, but I speak to a lot of athletes in all sports, and people are always asking me for sleep mask recommendations because I always recommend sleep masks because as an athlete, we always talk about controlling the controllables, and when you're on the road, you don't know the situation of the windows, the light, the hotel room. There's all these unknown variables, so at least control that. Right? If you have a sleep mask when you're in the dorms or when you're at home and you get used to it, that will at least be consistent no matter where you go. It can be really useful regardless if you're going different time zones and you need to adjust. It's an easy factor to control. So never had a great recommendation on sleep masks. So basically, me and my partners, we bought every sleep mask on Amazon and tore them up, ripped them apart, looked at every aspect, tried them out, found the best silk in the world that we could and put it all together and created these two sleep masks that I think are the best you can get.
Do you ever have pressure? Or do you have like pressure from a sleep mask ever?
Well, we have two versions. So the one is called our OG, which is like your traditional silk that is flat, and we have one that is it's like puffed out around your eyes, so there's no pressure on your eyes.
Wow.
Also can be great if girls have lash extensions. Doesn't mess them up.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I didn't think about that till Katie was like, "Oh my gosh, it won't mess up my lashes," and I'm like. Never did I think that was going to be a factor, but it's crazy. It's crazy how many people I talk to about, and girls always are like, well, will it mess up my lashes? And I'm like, as a matter of fact, no.
Not anymore.
So I don't like that either. I don't like pressure on my eyes. So I like the 3D. That's the name of the puffed out mask. But a lot of people like the 2D. The 2D, which is not the puffed out one, is a little better for side sleepers because it's very tight around the corner. So when you roll, it doesn't slide over intentionally. Then the 3D can be better for someone that's either like on their stomach or on their back.
Is there a sleeping position that's best?
Not really. It more depends on if you snore in a certain position. Like snoring can be a symptom of a lot of stuff that you really don't want to deal with, like sleep apnea. And if anybody ever has a question if they have sleep apnea, I would 100% get a sleep study done because that's something you don't want to mess around with. Like a lot of negative long-term health outcomes from sleep apnea, and snoring can be a symptom. But yeah, as long as you're comfortable and you're not snoring like in a specific position, there's not a ton of stuff out there on that. I'd say most people tend to be a side sleeper, which is pretty normal.
Bro, but
your arm fall asleep?
Shoulder. No. I got like knots in my back and my neck is all. I'm not doing it right, bro.
Are you a side sleeper?
Yes. But I'm trying to be a back sleeper because I'm sick of. Yeah. Like I did this research on.
Have you ever done a sleep study?
No.
You should do one.
But I was looking at how to place pillows. I got one under my armpit. I got one here. I got one on my neck. There's like one on my upper elbow, right? And it's like 4 pillows in.
Yeah.
And then, when I ever want to shift, it's a whole thing. But I usually sleep pretty well. I'm not like, I don't usually have problems, but it's just, I feel like not necessarily the best.
Yeah, as I've gotten older, that stuff definitely pops up more and more.
Yeah.
And then I feel like playing football, like your shoulders are always a little questionable. So it's not easy. And there's a million different pillow solutions, but I think honestly, with trial and error, like there's nothing to support like this is the best way. I think a lot of trial and error is useful, but we do also make we got that same silk. It's like the most hydrating silk you can get. It's like the highest quality, and we made pillowcases out of that. So it's like a cooling sensation, which is a main factor in why people can't sleep well too. Is just your body's ability to regulate temperature.
Does the darkness of the area you're sleeping matter? So like a sleep mask, beyond just having consistency, does like the darkness matter? Like as long as you can fall asleep, you can fall asleep.
The darkness in the room, you're saying?
Yeah.
With the sleep mask on?
Well, is that part of the benefit of a sleep mask is the pitch blackness?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. There's a lot of literature on just like pitch black being better than even just like they've done studies where like us, not many people have alarm clocks nowadays, but like the small lights on an alarm clock, like even that can disrupt some of your deep sleep cycles.
Oh, wow.
So what I mean, it's like one of those things. It's like, why not eliminate that variable completely? And I think the sleep mask is tough because it's like, it took me a long time to even try it, and I was super into sleep. It's not something you're like pumped about, you're not like, I really want to try a sleep mask. And it's kind of weird for someone that's never really thought about it. But I think if you give it like 2 or 3 nights, it's one of those things that you really got to see through and give a shot. And usually, you realize like it does have a big impact and you sleep a lot better.
So for those who have never tried mouth tape or a sleep mask, where would you direct them?
To purchase one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so dreamrecovery.io is our website. We're launching with the sleep mask first in April, and then the following month we're going to launch with the mouth tape subscription. And the mouth tape is nice because it's flexible and breathable, so it's not as, every time you start with mouth tape, it definitely is a little bit uncomfortable, and you start to think about, like, what if I can't breathe and all this stuff. But, on the flip side, that is another, you're almost giving yourself a lesson in regulating your nervous system and breathing through your nose, and you're fine. You can breathe really well, unless you have an issue. If you have an issue, absolutely, talk to a doc. But we'll have a lot of education on how to use it, different protocols. You can use it while you're exercising. That's useful for some low intensity exercise. And it can actually affect like what type of fuels you're using, like fats versus carbs, if you can breathe through your nose more efficiently. But yeah, I think it's one of those things that you just have to try.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have a money back guarantee. Like if you don't like it, like if you try it out and it's not for you, like we'll definitely give you a refund, because it's hard to describe, and you have to feel how it feels to sleep that well.
Yeah, and it's a little intimidating when you think like, oh, I'm blocking off my mouth.
100%.
Will I be able to breathe? But it's amazing how quick your body adapts, and mine just kind of instinctively switched to nose breathing.
Yeah. But I do think that like we're very open to it and used to probably trying stuff weird stuff like that. If it's someone that's, it's your first thing that you've really tried, especially when it comes to sleep, just know that it is going to be a little bit weird and uncomfortable. And I think it's important to start maybe just awake, doing simple tasks around the house, walking around, just getting comfortable and not really thinking about it. You'll be surprised at how easy it is to breathe out of your nose. You just never consciously think about like, how am I breathing?
It's also a more approachable investment getting mouth tape and a sleep mask than like jumping into buying a new mattress per se.
Yeah.
Right.
And I would argue too, like if you have a really poor mattress, like that's a different issue. But nowadays, we have this mattress company, Bright, that's amazing, and it's this AI technology and these computerized air pressurized chambers, which is off the charts. But there's a lot of stuff out too that's really affordable. So when you think about how big of an impact you can have as far as bang for your buck, it's a relatively low, simple investment and have big impacts. I mean, temperature and light, those two things alone, those are like my two biggest weapons, I call them, when we talk about combating like a good night's sleep.
Is colder the better?
Ideally like 65 to 68 degrees. That's like the perfect like sleep zone from the data. Yeah. But just in general, like you want to be, it needs to be cold enough to allow yourself to cool down. Like if you feel like you're warm, you're not able to cool down. Like your body does drop its core body temperature slightly when you fall asleep. So if it can't do that, you're going to have a really tough time.
When people say someone knows nothing about health, wellness, fitness, they come to you and they're like, hey, I want to start taking this seriously.
Yep.
What are your first 3 tips? Or like, hey, do X, Y, and Z and you'll be on a good path?
Yeah. My first tip is literally tracking sleep and bringing awareness around the environment that you're sleeping in and how much you're sleeping. Sleep is the tide that raises all ships as far as like health and wellness goes, right? So if sleep gets better, nutritional choices will get better, exercise gets easier, everything functions at a higher level. So I always start there because it'll make the transition so much easier. So start with sleep. Hydration's a pretty good second one. And then, start talking about a behavior. So usually pick one behavior a month, and you only have one goal, like a singular goal. It could be literally just track your sleep. It could be, something as small as like bringing a water bottle to work every day. Just one singular goal, 100% compliance, and then move on to the next one. It's much more effective than having like 5 separate goals in all these different buckets, because chances are it's not going to be a habit.
With the desired outcome of the one goal a month, building a habit.
Yeah, where it just becomes part of your daily routine.
Yeah. So you start stacking them. Hey, now my January goal was bring a bottle of water to work.
Yep.
February goal is track my sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it goes
Yeah,
on.
I think it's like important to guide that person, like what's the biggest bang for your buck as far as behavior goes. Because a lot of times the stuff that people perceive to be really important, you know, the high intensity workouts, all the flashy stuff, usually don't have as big of impact as something as small as sleep or hydration.
Bro, I always love talking to you. I feel like you're the type of guy that digs into these research studies.
Yeah,
And like you always got some new study.
I love it. I mean, research is so fascinating. It's also important though, like, to read it and not just look at the conclusion, you know, because a lot of times, like, you know, I've firsthand seen studies done that there was a desired outcome. It was designed to come out a certain way for one reason or the other. Maybe it's, you know, business side. It wasn't a faulty study. It was just the way it was set up and some of the variables. It was designed to look a certain way. So it's always important to look at like how it was done and just, you know, conceptually think about like, does somebody that's involved or funding have a angle on this? You know, like what's going on?
Yeah.
Or at least, you know, have someone else, if you hate it, have someone else look at it.
It's also been so funny to go over to your house and see your supplement cabinet. You are so generous with like sharing electrolytes, all the things you have, and you know your stuff. So anyway, for those who are interested in investing in their sleep, check out dreamrecovery.io.
Yes.
And get yourself some mouth tape and a sleep mask. But
yeah, man. I mean, I think, like I said, try it. I know it made a huge difference for me. So if you don't like it, we'll give you your money right back. Piece of cake.
You got anything else?
Good, man. Just got to schedule the next sauna session.
I can't wait.
Got to get one on the books.
You've been super generous, and I appreciate that.
No, it's been a blast. I mean, moving to Nashville's been like one of the best decisions I think we've made. It's been so fun. Like, you know, the city is great. The people here are great. We've been blessed to be around, like, you know, amazing people. Like you're talking about being around the people that kind of push you in different areas.
Yeah.
You know, I think the way things have been unfolding and meeting you guys and having Missy and Hayes here, just been a lot of great people around, which is rare, I think. So just super thankful.
It's a good little squad. Also, one of my highlight memories with Todd, game night, dressed up as Rick Astley, bro. You played that part so well.
Oh, man. Like, there's like, was there like 35 people there?
Yeah.
First time I met, probably 30. I left there and I was like, everyone's going to think I'm the biggest tool ever. So I felt like I was pretty into it. Like I fully committed.
Wearing sunglasses inside.
I had to be like the hotshot rock star.
Oh, man.
And I was like,
so
man, this is not the best first impression, but we're going to persevere because I still haven't seen a lot of those people again. They probably won't even act like they know me when I see them next time.
We've had some good laughs, dude.
Yeah. Like who was I talking to? Someone I was talking to afterwards, and it took them like 5 to 10 minutes to be, and then they were like, "You played that really well." Like they were like, they had to realize that's not how I actually was. I was like, man. Oh, that's exactly what I thought was gonna happen.
Jeez. Well, I'm excited. We do have so many similarities. I feel like with our stories.
Yeah.
Even the engagement, dude. Your video is way funnier than mine.
That was a moose.
You were not marathon time.
I was so out of breath by the time I got there.
Dog, your text about it, smashing a goo mid. Yeah, I was laughing so hard.
I probably did, man. I never ran back then.
Oh, man.
It was fun.
Anyway, I'm excited to grow the friendship, and we're literally like 6 weeks in, so there's a lot to come.
Fresh, but still like honeymoon stage, you know?
Yeah. Well, we'll have to have you and Katie on a couple things, but thanks for the time, Todd.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, you're doing good stuff.